With the release of Project Epoch just around the corner, I myself am still struggling to make a class choice, so this series will help me dive deep into the changes that Epoch made to the classes, so let's dive right in. First things first, let's take a look at the overall changes to the warriors. Very first and important thing would be the Victory Rush on level 10. This will actually increase our capabilities during the low levels to chain kill enemies. Of course, the healing part hasn't been implemented in TBC yet, but we have 20 seconds to use this extra free additional attack against the monsters, so unless we're eating before our next fight, we should be able to do this quite easily even with bandages. So very important change, very welcome. That extra attack will definitely be helpful during the leveling and even in some trash clearing probably, so very welcome change. Other than that, we've got raid-wide effects, which means that our shouts will now affect the whole raid, not only the party, so a very big quality of life thing, mostly for the raiders. During leveling it doesn't really matter that much, but yeah, very welcome. Other than that, in the overall part we don't really see any more changes in here. If we take a look at the spellbook, we can see some changes in arms straight away. First would be getting a Bladestorm, which is a capstone in the arms talent tree. If we take a look at it, it's exactly the same from the Wrath, except for the fact that we can be slowed below 100% movement speed up to... we can be actually slowed below 60%, but still that slow could be painful, especially in PvP. It's not going to be so easy to cleave those people. But yeah, Bladestorm is Bladestorm. It frees up from the any control, so it will still have its uses in PvE. Amazing thing, extra attacks in single target and amazing cleave, especially that in arms we also get sweeping strikes as in classic, which I think was a great decision. We can of course mix it up with Bladestorm for extra cleave. And the only change for Bladestorm, another change for Bladestorm is also that it has 2-minute cooldown. But I've seen some set tier bonus that every mortal strike we do reduces the cooldown by 4 seconds or something, so in the end game it can be reduced, which is amazing. Also, mortal strike seems to be updated, but this only is a matter of transferring 3-point talent that improved its damage and reduced cooldown into the core ability, so we don't no longer have that talent. Just improved mortal strike is baked into the standard ability. Other than that, we've got improved rend. I'm not really that great at mathematics. If anybody of you guys do know what that equation means, then state that in the comment section below. For me, it kind of looks like it's gonna take some damage from either our attack power or the weapon. So yeah, any update for rend, any buff for rend is welcome. I always loved that this is a spec with a big two-hander that also leaves those big bleeds on you. So I would love if this would be at least somewhat usable. I'm not gonna say that it will be amazing, but yeah, at least usable. That would be very welcome. If we take a look at the arms talent tree, we can straight up see many changes. First, and a very important one, is that we've got improved slam in the arms talent tree, and actually we can get it by level 25 or 26, which is quite early because the slam itself is learned on level 30, which means that we can create a very amazing build where we can get cruelty up to 5 points for extra crit, then go into rend, get some deflection. I usually love to take improved thunderclap for those early leveling dungeon tanking, and then take anger and management, deep wounds, and then double improved slam for solo leveling or DPS, and as you can see, required level 28. So by level 28 we can be ready to learn slam at 30 and slam our way to victory, which yeah, it's pretty much amazing. Then we get impale 1 200 weapon spec, and then on level 31 we get sweeping strikes, and we're good to go. We can cleave the shit out of our enemies. So yeah, arms really does look promising. I really like it. I love those changes. Also, then we get full weapon spec. I love swords. Finish up 200 weapon specialization. Get more strike. Blood Frenzy, and yeah, either improved charge if you lack rage or improved overpower for extra damage. And we've got pretty cool talent in here, Empowered Rend. The damage dealt by Rend is 1 second faster. Usually Rend takes every 3 seconds. This would mean that it takes every 2 seconds. Depending on the damage and the buffed ability, we'll have to wait and see if this is usable or not. Like I said, I would love to have it, but from what I heard, Rend is still not being a mandatory core of your toolkit, mainly in the endgame. But I would love to at least have its uses of it in some leveling. Like, you know, if I would have to open every fight with Rend, I would love it. Not everybody would love it, so I'm still happy that we've got Slam for our leveling, which is great. Then we go Endless Range and finish the capstone with the Blade Storm, so very cool and versatile spec along the way. If we want, we can also take Tactical Mastery to retain up some rage during the stance dancing. Like I said, tanking with arms is pretty great, especially on lower levels. In Classic, I know that arms warriors were tanking even up to the endgame gear pre-bis, you know, when you were just spamming dungeons for that gear. But the matter of the fact is that we don't know what changes exactly did the Epoch do to the dungeons. I know there were betas. If they are really more deadly, maybe going as arms is a death wish. Not quite sure yet, but overall in TBC environment, going for arms with a big two-hander in defensive stance and just spamming those thunderclaps in AoE is working and definitely recommended. And that's why warrior is one of my very high choices for my main, because yeah, it provides quite a lot of versatility. I can play solo pretty effectively. Leaving your enemies killing 2 at a time is very, very satisfying. Slamming will be available, and in TBC, if you actually cast your slam half a second before your normal swing ends, you can get both slam and white swing, so it's just a matter of getting used to the playstyle. And only costs 15 rage, so ultimately if you are having rage problems during the leveling, Mortal Strike could be just sold and never being used unless you got some extra rage, some from a crit or something. Otherwise you would just stick probably with the slam. Okay, when it comes down to the Fury, we don't see any changes at all in here. Battle Shout and Commanding Shout are updated because those are the raid-wide effects. Other than that, we got exactly the same toolkit, with the fact that we get Death Wish, of course, instead of Sweeping Strikes. And yeah, Improved Execute has been moved a little bit further down the line, just to swap places with Improved Slam. Other than that standard toolkit, we've got Bloodthirst, we've got some improved Whirlwind, and yeah, Rampage as a capstone. Potentially, you could leave Rampage and go for Sweeping Strikes, but unfortunately a lot of those talents are pretty much useless for Fury. Improved Charge you can take, maybe some Deflection just to have a Deep Wounds, and Anger Management, improved Overpower, Impale of course, this is useless. Improved Sweeping Strikes, now we can go Cruelty, this one, improved Cleave, and Rage is mandatory. Death Wish, Dual Wield Spec, yeah, but we'll lose quite a lot of attack power for some trash talent on those sides, so not quite sure. Overall, I think that still Fury will be superior in the end game, especially with the addition of Death Wish. But yeah, like I said, arms very versatile, and if Rend possibly could mean something, then who knows, maybe we could actually chase that Fury spec in the damage department. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe some new extra builds will come out to check out. So let's have a look at protection spells now. The only change in here that we can see is the Devastate and Sunder Armor, because there were some changes along the Sunder Armor and Expose Armor from the Rogue. I don't exactly remember how it was working in TBC, so I'm not up to date with the change, but as far as I'm concerned, it's something to do of not overlapping each other or something like that, so more of a quality of life thing. And yeah, protection, pretty awful of course for leveling, very amazing single target tank, but like I mentioned before, nothing has changed absolutely for protection here. All the good talent swaps what we have are pretty that much later down the line, so it doesn't affect protection at all. The only thing improved to the standard classic is that Revenge deals more damage baseline, because in classic it was like 14 damage or something on rank 1, and this is already 50, so you can just spam shield block and then go for the revenges every 5 seconds. It was pretty effective until I had to fight some casters and stuff like that, so definitely prefer a big two-hander and arms playstyle. So just to wrap things up, for me, Warrior looks quite promising. I'm not gonna say it's gonna change into like the best class to level suddenly, because it's not. Victory Rush and Slam are not gonna change the fact that we have absolutely no healing whatsoever, so yeah, the downtime will eventually slow us down tremendously, but like I said, Warrior is one of the very satisfying classes to play, to see those big massive crits while cleaving everything, and overall cleave in the game is amazing. And I'm actually a massive lover of 5 dungeon men, so blade storming stuff and just sweeping everybody off of the floor is something that sounds like fun to me, with occasional tanking here and there while low level dungeons always is promising, but we'll have to wait and see. As per usual, we're going to start off with the general changes. Paladin is being available for the Horde, and the race available is the Undeads. Some may say it's questionable, so some may say that they have actually waited for this. For me, it's pretty obvious, especially that we also have Undead Priests in the game. But the very cool thing about it is say that Epoch team actually says, you may be wondering, doesn't the Holy Light hurt undead creatures? The dynamic is explored in one of their quests, so we're gonna see at launch what they're actually talking about. In Standard Classic and TBC, we Paladins actually had only blessings at their disposal. In here, we actually follow more of a Wrath thing, where we have hands and blessings, which means that if we are using Blessing of Might and want to use Freedom, we will not override the previous spell. Instead, Freedom is a hand spell, so we can use both simultaneously, a very big buff to do that. On top of that, we've got racial seals, and as you probably know, or maybe you don't know, there is a racial knowledge system in the game on Epoch, where you can actually change the racials. This also applies to the priests and paladins. We have 3 paladin races available: humans, dwarves, and undeads. Each one of them has their own seal available for the race. So with this racial knowledge, we can actually change and use different ones at our will. Raid-wide effects changes that we mentioned previously in the videos, when it comes down to paladins, actually apply to the auras. So every aura we use is now applied to the whole raid, not to a 5-minute party. So quality of life stuff and for general things, that would basically be it. So now we're going to go through the whole spellbook things. And keep in mind that this also includes the talent changes, so let's have a look at those. With DBC, we get Aura Mastery, which increases the ranges of our auras to 40 yards, very nice. DBC also Consecration is baseline for Paladins, we no longer have to learn it as a talent, so very nice quality of life thing. Divine Illumination has been changed, and now it doesn't actually reduce the mana cost, but increases the casting speed of all Paladin spells by 50% for 15 seconds. This is a crazy buff, but the thing is that it actually causes forbearance, so we won't be able to use anything like Divine Shield or Hand of Protection or Divine Protection. So it does come at a cost, but yeah, it's very powerful. 50% haste. Jesus Christ. Holy Shock in TBC, very powerful as well, especially that the cooldown has been reduced to 10 seconds, so Shockadins rejoice. Our undead paladins get Risen Charger and Risen Warhorse, so they're versions of Paladin Mount, of course, that we get on level 40 and 60. Seal of Light has been buffed, mainly with the Judgment effect, that now increases the healing we get quite tremendously, so possibly could have more uses for it. And when we take a look at the talent tree in Holy, one major thing we can get here is the Overwhelming Light. This talent was not available in Standard DBC nor Classic. When you Holy Light, Flash of Light, or Holy Shock spells heal a target for health, 3 nearby injured allies will be healed by an amount equal to 20% of the healing effect, which is massive, because Holy Paladins are all about that burst healing, and it still stands. But the thing is that our overall healing will now heal any nearby injured target around. So it's a massive buff and pretty much an AoE heal for Paladin that we haven't seen up until like Cataclysm, I think. Not counting in Beacon of Light from Wrath of the Lich King. So yeah, Holy Paladin healers look pretty promising, I would say. We only see buffs in here, so that's going to be crazy. Now we're going to take a look at the protection tree. Avenger's Shield, massive buff because now it's instant. So very nice quality of life change for us. As we can see in here as well, all the auras are now working to the whole party and raid members within 30 yards. So like we mentioned this before, same for freedom. Now it is being a hand, not a blessing. So Hand of Protection, Hand of Sacrifice, all those spells has been changed. So we can use it alongside blessings. Righteous Defense, of course, is a new TBC. It's a spell that has been added in TBC, which is basically a taunt for us. So amazing thing to have. And in TBC we also get Spiritual Attunement, which is a passive ability that gives Paladin mana when healed by other friendly target spells. The amount of mana gained is equal to 8% of the amount healed. So a little bit mana issues fixer, but not a big deal with all the quality of stuff we get. There also comes a big mana cost for all those stuff, all this stuff. So yeah, we'll have to see how it works in practice, but I would bet that Paladin still will have plenty of problems with mana usage. In the tree itself, we don't really see that many changes. Of course, we get standard TBC stuff like Avenger's Shield, improved Holy Shield, Argent Defender. Is very nice when you have less than 35% health, and when an attack brings you under 35% health, all damage taken is reduced by 6%, which is a nice passive to have on that low. We get also Spell Warding to reduce some spell damage taken by a little bit more, and of course Redoubt. Now it doesn't require us to get crit, but damaging melee and ranged attack against us have like 10% chance to increase your chance to block by 30%, which is a massive change if we take a look at its classic version when you need it to be crit. So Paladin tanks looking very cool, especially when we take a look at the seals that we're going to get, but we're going to get into that later. We're just going to do everything one by one. So now we go into the Retribution tree, and of course we get Avenging Wrath with the TBC spells, which is amazing, but the cooldown has been increased to 3 minutes. Of course it causes Forbearance as well, and it increases all damage caused by 30%, which is massive. Auras as well been changed to the raids. Crusader Strike has been changed as well. Cooldown still stays the same, but the thing is that in TBC it dealt 110% physical damage to the target, and this actually causes 75% weapon damage as Holy, which is literally a buff because we get plenty of Holy damage buffs and modifiers. It also will work with spell damage, so it's a massive buff, especially that I've heard that already some of the tier sets for Paladins actually contain both strength and spell power on it, so it's going to be a massive buff. Hammer of Wrath received a massive change as well, because now it's not entirely treated as a spell, because it will not any longer reduce your reset your swing timer. So even if you use it in between attacks, you're gonna get that white hit anyway. So yeah, massive buff and quality of life, because previously in Classic, in most cases it was actually a DPS loss unless your target was out of range. So very welcome change to have. Like I mentioned previously, Sanctity Aura increase all of our holy damage by 10%. This will of course affect Crusader Strike as well, so yeah, massive thing to have. And it's actually welcome because Retribution should be a holy spell damage dealer with melee attacks, so I think I've got that fantasy right. Seal of Crusader can be judged also to increase holy damage taken by up to 161, which is massive for things like Crusader Strike or Judgments. So cool stuff. And on top of everything, all Paladins, no matter the race, get Seal of Dedication, which is basically a very first AoE thing. So Holy casters actually get Holy healers get the AoE heal, and Prot Paladins and Red Paladins receive an AoE seal, which is massive. I mean, it's not exactly AoE because it cleaves your second target for 50% weapon damage as Holy, the additional target, but unleashing this seal will release a wave of light in front of you, dealing 200 Holy damage to all targets it hits. There's also one drawback to it, because 35% of the damage dealt by this wave will also damage you over 6 seconds, so for tanks it can be a little bit dangerous, but yeah, Red Paladins should do fine with it. Either way, it's pretty cool, and the minimum level is 46, so during leveling we won't be using it that much, especially that yeah, it backfires literally. But yeah, in some cleaning situations could be useful. And now we're going to go into the racial knowledge. Like I mentioned, each race has their own seals to use. So the undeads get Seal of Penitence or Penitence, I don't know how to spell it exactly, but this is literally a seal of blood from TBC. So yeah, it deals damage equal to 35% of normal weapon damage, but we lose health equal to 10% of the total damage inflicted. And also unleashing this seal will judge enemy instantly, causing 270 holy damage at the cost of health equal to 33% of the damage caused. So yeah, we deal constant damage, but at a cost of some health, and it's actually available only from level 56, so during leveling we won't be using it that much. Seal of Vengeance is same seal we have always seen. This is for humans, so it's just a damage over time, with the highest damage dealing from Judgment, because it causes 70 holy damage per application. So it means that with Judgment you can deal 350 holy damage. And if you take a look at the Seal of Command, even when the enemy is stunned, it deals only 339. So yeah, even on paper, Seal of Vengeance has the most powerful Judgment effect from all of those. And last but not least, we get a new shiny thing, Seal of the Mountain for dwarves, which is literally a tanking seal, something we haven't seen before. Fills the Paladin with the might of the Thanes for 30 seconds, giving your attacks a chance based on weapon speed to gain 110 and 9 armor to increase the damage of Hammer, and increase the damage of Hammer of Wrath by 3% for 10 seconds. This stacks up to 5, so amazing armor and a threat from the Hammer of Wrath. And on top of everything, unleashing this seal energy will cause all nearby targets to take 48 holy damage per stack and increase duration of Mountain Might to 120 seconds until you next use the seal. So yeah, amazing for tanking. We also get AoE attack off of the Judgment, a must-have to be fair, as a tank. In standard game, you would actually have to become a dwarf no matter what if you want to be a tank, but thanks to the racial knowledge system, we can swap out the races depending on our role. Even with dual spec, it can be kind of difficult. If you ask me, I would say that Seal of Vengeance is the more versatile. It can be used for both tanking and DPSing, but if you want to specialize in one of those, Seal of Penitence is probably greater for DPS, and Seal of the Mountain for tanking, as it seems. If we take a look at the Retribution tree, we pretty much see all the good stuff we had from TBC, so more movement speed thanks to the Pursuit of Justice, Sensitive Aura that increases our holy damage, which will now be mandatory due to the fact that Crusader Strike actually deals holy damage. Crusader Strike is available at level 44 at earliest if we go full into Retribution. And the amazing thing we have is the Sanctified Judgment, which basically gives us mana back every time we judge, 80% of the mana cost of the judged seal, so very useful and very mana efficient. So we are able to be more mana efficient while DPSing. A lot of crit chance on the Paladin as well. And just to wrap up everything, it seems that Paladins will be quite powerful on Epoch. Holy definitely was pretty good healer in TBC overall, and with all the changes and some AoE stuff that we've seen is going to be even crazier. Paladins receive plenty of quality of life stuff with the TBC, and from Epoch with the seals, an instant Avenger shield, which is going to be amazing. And red paladins, like I said, I'm not saying they're going to be like straight up best DPS class overall. On paper, it really looks promising, especially for people that can master the seal juggling technique and combine, for example, Seal of Vengeance with Seal of Command for pure damage, while always judging the Seal of Vengeance. It will be amazing, to be fair. So yeah, is Paladin any good though? Definitely, both of the three specs look really powerful on paper. Still has to be tested in practice, but overall, I definitely would recommend it. To be fair, I feel that we're gonna have a crazy amount of undead paladins on the server, but we'll have to wait and see. So first and foremost change for the Shaman in the Epoch universe is of course allegiance to the Alliance. We can create a Dwarf Shaman which has all the counterpart quests from the Horde seamlessly fitted into the existing Alliance vanilla world. Second thing are totemic improvements, which basically is a standard color of the elements from the Wrath of the Lich King, but with the exception that you have to cast it for 3 seconds straight. Fortunately, it can be cast while moving, and it can be learned at level 30, with additional 2 sets at level 40 and 50. To top it all off, totems are now raid-wide, similar to the other classes' raid buffs, so it's going to be easier than ever to buff our party members in vanilla world. The problem with the nature immune bosses has been addressed as well, as there are plenty of those in vanilla world. Therefore, Shamans have received a new ability, which we're going to go into in a second. So last but not least, we receive Soothe Elemental, which is a similar spell to Druid's Soothe or Priest, which basically reduces the detection range of the hostile elementals, meaning that they will not aggro us from the very far away. So a very useful and thematic thing for Shamans. Alright, now let's take a look at the spellbook. So first we're going to get into an elemental, which I think is pretty damn cool. First and foremost, as you can see, we've got Call of Ancestors, Call of Elements, and Call of the Spirits, so the spells that allow us to cast 4 totems at the same time with 3-second cast, castable while moving, which is great. In TBC, we get the Elemental Totems, which allows us to summon a powerful elemental entity at our disposal with 20-minute cooldown, so quite powerful. And there's our new spell, Molten Blast, which literally hurls a ball of molten lava at the target for 344 fire damage and resetting the duration of your active flame shock effect. This would mean that possibly spamming Molten Blast would be more effective than the lightning bolts, it seems, as it also refreshes our flame shock for free, but that also depends if it also resets how the damage ticks, because if it resets it completely, then it's not gonna tick at all, because it will probably have a higher cast time than the tick rate, as usually it's per 3 seconds. So I'm not quite sure about that, but also it seems that Lightning Bolt at maximum rank deals a little bit more damage, although I've seen somewhere, but this is not confirmed, that my Molten Blast is actually faster to cast, so maybe this can be equal DPS wise, but this has to be checked yet. And also I'm not quite sure about the Flame Shock part effect, so maybe somebody played the beta and can elaborate on that. Either way, the minimum level is 14, so we get it quite fast, to be fair. So all in all, amazing spell, even if we will be using Lightning Bolt generally against like non-resistant mobs. Then using Molten Blast just to refresh Flame Shock is always better than recasting it, so yeah, some additional stuff to our rotation at least. But the big downside is that this is a fire spell, so like initial instances like Onyxia Lair or Molten Core are not really in favor of this spell, so initially we're not really, except for leveling, we'll not really probably see that much usage for this spell. Either way, we also get Soothe Elemental, as we have spoken previously. We get this at level 18, so quite early, and the Totem of Wrath, which is literally a capstone in Elemental Tree, which increases the chance to hit and critical strike by spells for 3% for all party and raid members, so very nice buff. Although, if we take a look at the enhancement changes, we can see that Flame Tongue Totem now gives us spell power, same as Flame Tongue Weapon. So at maximum rank, it gives us 45 spell power, which is quite crazy, to be honest. In TBC, that was actually non-existent, so it's a Wrath of the Lich King stuff, but this will probably increase elemental damage by a little bit and help us with the DPS, which is of course a welcome change. But yeah, having Flame Tongue Totem to increase spell power for all of our raid can be a hard decision making, although in a right scenario, of course, we will probably have one Shaman with Totem of Wrath and one Shaman with Flame Tongue Totem, so not a big deal. You will just have to make a choice in small scale PvE, let's say. But yeah, if we take a look at the talent tree, first thing we can see here is that we get Fire and Lightning Mastery, which reduces the cost time of Molten Blast, Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning spells. This has been moved very up the tree from, I think, over here, which is nice because during leveling we get that cast reduction quite early, so this will definitely help us out to level as Elemental. On top of that, we also get Elemental Focus, so clear casting state reduces the mana cost of next 2 damaging spells or fire totals by 40%, which is massive. So the more crit we have, the better. And as you can see, we can start picking up the crit talent at level 30. So by level 35, we can have at least 5% additional crit chance. On top of that, Elemental Fury is before, which increases the crit damage. And we have, of course, from TBC Unrelenting Storm, which regenerates mana equal to 10% of our intellect every 5 seconds, even while casting. So this is nice, especially that for Elemental, we will have to open Restoration Tree, Water Shield. This is a massive upgrade, and the requirement is level 28. So as you can see, by level 30, you can have maxed out Unrelenting Storm, which will regenerate mana for you, and Water Shield on top of that, which means that basically from level 30, maybe even before, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, from level 30 onwards, you can level up as a Shaman, Elemental Shaman quite freely with additional Magma Blast on top of that. I think it's pretty tempting to try it out, to be fair. Later down the line, we also get Elemental Mastery, which is of course a crit chance, and Elemental Overload also affects Molten Blast, as well as Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, which is going to be 20% chance. So yeah, all the important things regarding the Elemental Shaman spells affect Magma Blast, Molten Blast as well. So yeah, it's a very nice addition, definitely, especially that Epoch didn't like take this spell out of the blue, because Molten Blast was supposed to initially get to the vanilla, although right before the release it has been taken away. Not sure why, but yeah, that's how it is. So it's just a spell that Blizzard created but never really made it into the game. Later down the line was changed to Lava Burst. So, and one additional amazing thing we get here is Rolling Thunder. This is literally like a basic version of the Cataclysm talent, where we stack Lightning Shield charges, and when we reach 9, any attempt to gain another charge will instead launch a Lightning Shield ball at your target. So yeah, additional damage with Lightning Shield. I would think that playing with this as a DPS will probably a DPS gain. Even though we lose some mana regen due to the lack of Water Shield, it's probably going to be quite easy to maintain mana even with like Shadow Priest in the party as a mana battery. So this should be playable in PvE scenario. In PvP probably could be harder because yeah, you don't really have that much time to free cast, because you also have an option to consume the surplus charges above 3 with your Earth Shock, which would be a massive burst. But yeah, as we all know, in PvP you don't really have that much time to cast. So also in standard TBC there was a talent that actually reduced, when we got crit, it reduced the cast time reduction by 100%. And we got something different, Earth's Grasp. The Earth Totems give you a 50% chance to avoid interruption caused by damage while casting any Shaman damaging spell. This means that using Earthbind and Stoneclaw is pretty much mandatory as Elemental Shaman, and they also both get improved, as Stoneclaw get 50% more health and Earthbind get more radius. So you basically start turreting your target from afar. When somebody gets close, you drop a Stoneclaw on Earthbind, then you get cast time interruption avoidance, and yeah, additional effect like slow from Earthbind or taunt from Stoneclaw. So very useful for leveling, let's say. We get some other cool stuff here as well, like Elemental Precision, so more hit chance and reduce the threat cost. Elemental Overload, which is a new TBC spell, of course, talent that duplicates your spell cast but deals half damage with no threat. So I have to admit that Elemental definitely looks pretty dope when it comes down to PvE part. In PvP, probably one-shots are still available, but with some resilience, who knows. As a Shaman in TBC, we don't really have that many escape things, except for like Ghost Wolf and stuff like Earthbite and some slows from Frost Shock, so it will be still a pain in the ass to fight melees, but against casters we shouldn't be that bad with Earth Shock, Interrupt and Grounding Totem. But yeah, when it comes down to the changes themselves, definitely looking promising on Epoch. When it comes down to enhancement, of course we get Bloodlust from TBC with Earth Elemental Totem as well, which we can summon a tank. All the totems have been updated because of that raid-wide utility. Flame Tongue, as I said, not only gives additional damage, but also adds some spell power. Grace of Air Totem increases the agility. Grounding, we all know. Heroism for the Alliance. Rockbiter Weapon has been reverted to Classic, and now attacks made with it actually generate more threat. I'm gonna address Elephant in the Room. Shaman tanks are not viable on Project Epoch in the end game. There are some little talents by low level, like in Classic, up until like Scarlet Monastery. You can tank pretty effectively, but further down the line it's going to get even harder. There's absolutely no support for like pure Shaman tank. If you had hopes to tank with Shaman, then yeah, you have to look for the other server. Humanistic Rage is a talent from TBC as well. Reduces all damage taken by 30% and causes successful melee attacks to regenerate mana, which is amazing. Storm Strike has been changed a little bit, cooldown the same 10 seconds, but previously we received 2 charges of 20% increased nature damage, and now the damage has been reduced to 5%, but it lasts 12 seconds with no stacks, so you get permanent 5%. So this literally leads to less burst damage, but probably equals the same over the course of a long fight. Wind Fury Totem is the same, but Wind Fury Weapon has been changed. As you can see in the tooltip, imbue the Shaman weapon with wind. Each hit has 36% chance of dealing additional damage, equal to 2 extra attacks with 3.333 extra attack power. As far as I'm concerned, in TBC, it also had 36% chance of dealing additional damage, but it was only for one-handed weapon. When it came down to two-handers, it was only 20%, as like in tooltip. So this has been changed in Epoch. Everything has been equalized. So from what I heard, both two-handed and dual wields playstyle are completely viable depending what you need. And at the end of the roll, we also have Wrath of the Air Totem, which increases spell damage and healing by up to 58. So it's actually improved version of Flame Tongue Totem. And to be fair, I'm not quite sure if it stacks or not. But probably, because this increases spell power generally, and this gives you like an imbue on the weapon. So this should stack, but I'm not quite sure, still to be tested. Also for enhancement leveling, we also receive Water Shield at level 28, so definitely will be nice. And when it comes down to talents, not so many changes in here, except that we still keep the threat and defensive capabilities like I mentioned. So Spirit Weapons reduce the threat generated by your melee attacks unless you are wearing a shield. So if you have a shield, the threat it will still be up there. We get Mental Quickness from TBC, which increases our spell damage and healing by amount of the attack power. So Hybrid Talent, very nice. We got some hit from the TBC, Unleashed Rage, more attack power. Shamanistic Rage has been addressed previously, but Storm Strike, which we covered also. And the most important thing, Primal Wielding, allows one-hand and off-hand weapons to be equipped in the offhand, which literally means dual wielding, to simply put. But additionally, your Lightning Bolt and Molten Blast spells no longer delay your next melee swing, but deals 50% less damage if cast within 4.5 seconds after melee attack. This literally means a spell weaving Shaman, meaning that you can use your Storm Strike, use your Shock, and then basically you have a downtime between your Storm Strike or Shock is back up. So in that time, you can use Wise Attack and then weave in the spells in between, because they are not going to reset your auto attack swing timer. This is going to be especially easier to use while using a two-handed weapon, because then you have a pretty long time between next attacks. But I think that generally Lightning Bolt has 2.5 cast time, I think. So if you get slow one-handed weapons, you can basically manage to do so as well. But I think this is mainly for the two-handed weapons, where you can cast a full lightning bolt between your next swing timer happens. So potentially very cool playstyle. This is like a replacement for Maelstrom weapon, which made your casts eventually instant. And yeah, spell weaving sounds pretty cool. We didn't really have that playstyle any time before, so sounds quite exciting and will definitely improve like the rotation for the shamans and the downtime we have, especially that we don't have to use totems individually now. So yeah, pretty cool talent. I like the idea. Maybe it's not like the super fun to play or the best method to deal with things, but I think that it fits that hybrid playstyle very nicely, so good to have something like that. As always, enhancement is great for leveling. We get water shield, we've got heals to back us up, and yeah, pretty nice burst damage with Wind Fury or however you want to spell it. But yeah, primal wielding definitely looks pretty cool. So for shamans, yeah, primal leveling build, definitely enhancement, but there are some changes that were addressed in the elemental tree to allow us some freedom in the choice of the spec for leveling. When it comes down to the water and the restoration tree, we get Earth Shield from TBC, of course. Healing Stream Totem has smart healing for the moment, so it's gonna heal the lowest HP target. Other than that, we got standard stuff like Nature Swiftness, Totemic Recall, which is also a TBC addition, and the most important thing in here, which is Water Shield. In the talents, literally not so many changes. We've got Earth Shield as a capstone, of course. For Mana Tide Totem, of course, will be useful as always. And we get improved Chain Heal from TBC, so even more Chain Heals from us. And Restoration also got its scaling. As more intellect we have, more spell damage and healing we will be able to dish out. So Shamans didn't actually receive, from what I see, any AoE healing talent like the previous specs, but to be fair, Shamans were already crazy when it comes down to AoE with the chain heal spam, so I guess they just simply didn't need it. Either way, Shaman healers were overall very powerful in TBC, and I think it's gonna stay that way. That's why probably it hasn't been touched that much. I love definitely the elemental changes, enhancement looks pretty damn cool as well. So is Shaman any good though? Yeah, definitely, it looks pretty powerful. If we take a look at the elemental, the problems were addressed perfectly. We're gonna see how it turns out, of course, but yeah, every single problem of elemental has been addressed somewhat. We get water shield on top of everything. For leveling, we get all the important talents like cast time and mana regen quite early. So amazing for leveling. I think it's going to be quite powerful in PvE as well. Enhancement, powerful as always for leveling. In PvE, endgame, who knows, could be quite powerful if we get some amazing set and with some lightning bolt weaving. Could be a really cool playstyle and quite powerful, to be fair. And the Restoration, like I said, they were quite powerful by default in TBC, and it seems to stay that way in here. So if you always loved Shaman, you're gonna love it on Epoch as well. And it seems to be like a quite powerful choice, to be fair. So definitely recommend it if you like shamanistic elemental powers. So let's first talk about general changes for the hunters. First off, we've got the ammo adjustments. This is due to the fact that with the implementation of Steady Shot, hunters use like double the amount of ammo they used to have in vanilla. So because we have less bigger bags like quivers to obtained, it has to be addressed, so they increase the ammo stacks to 250, and the high level quivers will have 2 slots more. Therefore we will be able to contain more ammo with us, which is pretty much a quality of life change due to the changes to the class itself. But there's also quite a lot of changes to the pets. First off, their scaling has been increased, so they seem to be quite more powerful on level 60 than on level 17. And also there are like new pets to discover. Of course, there are no exotic pets at this point in the game, but new families have been introduced and some of the spells have been changed and added. So for example, we have like Wrath of the Lich King spell for crabs, which allow you to pin your target for 4 seconds, which will be crazy good in PvP when it comes down to Hunter. And one amazing and very nice quality of life change is also differentiating between melee attack and range attack. Due to the 3.3.5 client, this is gonna happen automatically depending on the range we find ourselves in. So if we click auto attack from far, it's gonna shoot some arrows, and if we come into the melee range, he's gonna start attacking with his sword or melee weapon. So this is mostly quality of life change, but will make our lives easier overall as a hunter. So very welcome change. And on top of that, of course, raid-wide effects, for example for True Shot Aura, so more attack power for everybody in the party or raid. Now if we take a look at the Beast Mastery, we see mostly one important change for the aspect of the pack, as this is no longer a toggle ability that we turn on and turn off wherever we want, but this is a 5-minute cooldown that increases the movement speed of all party by 40%. The duration is not stated in here, so we are not quite sure for how long does it last, but I would probably bet it's something around 10 seconds or 15 as usual, like dash from Feral, Druid, or sprint from Rogues. So although it's a raid-wide effect, so I would bet that it's a little bit shorter, so my bet is 10 seconds. But it still needs to be checked. On top of that, we also get the aspect of the Viper from the TBC, which is literally mana regenerating aspect. So this will help us out tremendously in the end game, because during the leveling, we can still like kill quite efficiently without spending too much mana, but in the end game mana was a big problem, massive actually for hunters, so aspect of the Viper will actually get rid of it because we'll get very nice mana back for our attacks. And as usual for TBC, we get a kill command, which is additional attack for our pet. Although it seems to have been changed, because it's working more like in retail, where you can use it every 5 seconds, and our pet just simply causes additional attack, while in TBC it was like I think 1 minute cooldown, where it increases like attack power of your pet or something like that. So yeah, definitely more usable and a very nice spammable attack for Beastmaster, which should diversify our rotation a little bit, so it's very welcome actually. When it comes down to the talent tree, to be fair, I don't really see any changes whatsoever. I see standard stuff from TBC. We've got of course Bestial Wrath and the Beast Within, so both the pet and we are going to get some very nice damage increase boost. Ferocious Inspiration, which is an amazing raid-wide party effect that increases all damage dealt by 3% at maximum. So in Marksmanship we've got attack power, in this one we've got all damage done, so at least 2 hunters will be welcome in every raid to provide those buffs, so very good to have. Other than that, we've got standard stuff that increases the power of our pet furthermore. And while we're at it, the Wrath of the Lich King talent trees for pets are staying. So yeah, that's why also pets will be a little bit more easier to train and probably more powerful due to that as well. So Beast Mastery seems like a very solid choice for initial gaming and of course PvP, because yeah, they were a menace in PvP. In Marksmanship, first and foremost, we see Hunter's Mark update, and it seems that it increases the ranged attack power by a default amount, but then it increases further by each time they are attacked by a ranged attack, so it's going to increase even further. There are some mathematics included in here, so I'm not quite sure by how much, but yeah, still, this means that we've got more ranged attack power against our targets, which is nice to have. And of course we get a new toy from TBC, which is a steady shot that causes base weapon damage plus 58 and causes additional 145 against base target. Although we do get it quite late because on level 52, so it's more like a end game melody rather than leveling, although quite important thing in all of our toolkit for all the specs, so it's here, it's there, it's usable for us. Silencing Shot, it has been changed with True Shot Aura, so the Aura is a capstone now and Silencing Shot is available a little bit earlier, which we're going to get into that in a second, because otherwise we don't see any changes in the marksman, to be fair. As you can see, Silencing Shot is not the capstone, which is crazy good, because for PvP, because in PvP we can use Silencing Shot, go until Silencing Shot, and then either go with Survival or Beast Mastery, so yeah, more choice for us, to be fair. Because in PvE probably you want to grab True Shot Aura anyway, so Concussive Barrage is a very nice talent because as you've seen, the shot deals more damage to daze target, and successful auto shots will have 6% chance to daze the target for 4 seconds. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on bosses like in the Mage tree, where Frostbite could affect immune targets, but either way, it's a nice random RNG stuff to have to slow your enemies down. Otherwise, Careful Aim, which increases our attack power by intellect, so intellect gear will be welcome, which is gonna increase our mana as well as attack power, so multi-shot buffs, and standard scaling stuff where our ranged attack power is increased by 10%, so. And then we go into the survival tree. Unfortunately, as in many other Classic Plus servers, survival hasn't been changed into a melee hunter, which is a shame, to be fair. I always imagine survival hunter being a melee, although Epoch has a different view of it, maybe probably because they use DBC stuff in it. But anyway, first and foremost, we receive a massive change for Disengage, as this is the same version as in Wrath of the Lich King, which is a leap to the back. Although it's very limited, because first you have to be in combat, second you have to have a target acquired, and third you cannot use it while jumping, which means that it kind of limits your gap creating ability. So very useful probably in PvP, but the gap creating will probably won't be that amazing, let's say. So good to have, but nothing really that amazing. Other than that, from TBC we get Misdirection, which is going to be great for additional threat for the tanks. Snake Trap, which is another utility spell for us, mostly for PvP, and that's basically it when it comes down to survival, so not really that much. Especially that in the tree itself there are absolutely no changes, or I don't know, maybe I'm blind, but I haven't seen anything in here, to be fair. Readiness is the capstone, which finishes the cooldown on other hunters' abilities, which is really not that great. I do remember Wyvern Sting having its uses in PvP, so yeah, probably survival will be like a PvP backup tree where you can grab some stuff. And just to finish up your build, although I think that in PvE also at least one hunter would be welcome due to Expose Weakness, which literally increases attack power of all of the attackers against the target if we crit. So it's possible to go up to here and then go, for example, into marksmanship and to do a little bit more damage, but also provide this debuff. So basically survival is more about the crit damage, while marksmanship is more about ranged attack powers, so that's the difference it seems in here. Otherwise, Hunter looks like, maybe not to say that it haven't been touched at all, but it seems that the TBC version is pretty good, and except for like some swaps here and little changes in there, there's not much to it, to be fair. We don't unfortunately get any new toys whatsoever to play with, except for like some new pets and their abilities. So yeah, I feel like Beastmaster will be quite powerful. So is the Hunter any good though? Yeah, definitely, because the TBC ones were quite powerful anyways. But I see that Beastmaster could be the top spec for it. First, for leveling, because it always has been amazing having a personal tank and also in PvP as well. It's great due to the pet, but also in the end game, either PvP or PvE, with all the pet scaling and stuff, it can get really crazy, but we'll have to wait and see for that. When it comes down to the overall changes for the druids, we have pretty big additions in here. First is the feral attack power that we're going to get on every weapon piece we are supposed to find in the world, anywhere literally. So as in TBC, this was added in the expansion content. This is going to be from level 1, so more attack power for ferals is always welcome. On top of that, weapons with on-hit effects like bleeds, I don't know, spellcasts or stuff like that, will also work. Same goes for things like Flame Tongue, but unfortunately big no for Wind Fury, so if you had your hopes up there, it's not going to happen unfortunately. But still plenty of weapons with amazing on-hit effects that we could potentially use, so very nice change. Death to Wolf's Head. If you do remember from Classic, there was a leather druid helmet that actually allowed you to get 40 energy on 10 rage when you shapeshifted into bear or cat. This is gone, thankfully, so we are not tied to only one helmet. This has been implemented with the Fura talent from the restoration tree, and now we are free to use any helmet we want. Polyarm proficiency, literally from the future expansions. Druids can now use polyarms, which is going to be amazing for the ferals. I think that the shift to consumables has been introduced in Wrath of the Lich King, but I'm not quite sure. It was definitely not present in TBC, so now this is happening. We can use potions or any on-use effect items in shapeshift form, so more versatility for us, thankfully. Out of Combo Resurrection is something we also get, so we're going to get like additional revive spell that allows us to normally revive people after a wipe. And as for everybody, things like Wild Moonkin Aura or Leader of the Pact, Gift of the Wild will be raid-wide, so quality of life stuff. Now let's have a look at the balance spellbook. We've got Barkskin in here. It is updated because it is out of the global cooldown, so it's going to be easier to use. With TBC, we of course get a Cyclone, very powerful CC effect. Force of Nature, which is a capstone of the Balanced Druid. From what I've heard, the Balanced Druid in itself didn't receive that much love, so many people were actually asking to buff this. But yeah, numbers are still subject to change, we're going to see after release. But if you were hoping for a massive balance update, buffs or whatever, you probably have to hold your horses for now. Otherwise, you've got pretty standard stuff in here, with exception of the Moonkin form, because now it also received the Enrage effect that we know that will increase our spell damage, but I think 5% or something like that. It's a damage buff nonetheless, but we also have to get hit first to be able to pull it off, so it does have its drawbacks. Same goes for the tree. We don't really see any changes in here, except for the fact that we get better scaling thanks to the lunar guidance, which basically increases the our total intellect by 9%, and spell damage and healing by 10% of our total intellect, by 30% actually, if it's 3 out of 3, so that's quite a lot. And that means that by stacking intellect we can get that extra juicy spell power to use. And yeah, Celestial Focus also has been implemented into the Starfire, because previously it only was affecting Wrath. Now it's going to be Starfires that will not be interrupted, which is going to be amazing. Juicy stuff from TBC is definitely Dream State, that allows us to regenerate mana equal to our intellect, and we're going to get quite a lot of intellect thanks to the lunar guidance. On top of that, more spell power coefficient on the Wrath and Starfire, and of course Capstone with Force of Nature. The numbers still need to be checked, but yeah, for the moment, not that much cool stuff for balance. Completely opposite is the Feral Druid, with plenty of cool new stuff, and especially feral attack power, shapeshifting, and on-hit effects that are going to buff our overall performance. As you can see, this is new custom stuff. Feral attack. All equipable weapons will receive additional feral attack power based on weapon DPS. Only a druid may see this one as stat, so it's implemented as a passive, which is nice. Otherwise, we get Lacerate from level 56 as a new toy from TBC to bear form. Single target bleed, nice to have. Leader of the Pact has been made raid-wide, as we mentioned. Maim, new toy that can allow us to stun from cat form. Mangles, of course, are new things for both cat and bear from TBC. And a very important thing in here, improved Tiger Fury. As you can see, it increases physical damage done by 10 for 18 seconds, and the bleed damage causes this effect to increase by 1 up to 10 times. So this is probably intended to shift the focus of the shifting out from the cat form, instead like prioritizing to stay constantly in one form, which is pretty logical. You don't want to play that shape-shifting game. But still, numbers are subject to change, so we're going to test and see how it actually comes out. Not so many changes in the tree in itself as well, but we get amazing nurturing instincts, which increases our healing spells by up to 100% of our agility. So yeah, more agility means more healing, so a big buff to our survivability, an amazing thing to level with. Also, we get improved leader of the pack, so another self-healing, predatory instinct, a new toy, more crit damage, and mangle, of course, as a capstone for a very nice spammable attack for both bear and feral. As for the tank, it was pretty good in TBC anyways, with high health pulse and armor, and unfortunately we didn't have any good mitigation, but maybe now with some bark skin changes and the allowance of items that we can use in the bear form maybe can help out a little bit, but yeah, we'll have to see. We've also got some nice additions and changes to the restoration tree, with Gift of the Wild, of course, being raid-wide. We get Live Bloom from the TBC. It says it's updated, but to be fair, I absolutely have no idea what is it all about. I'm not that much into healers, to be fair. Overgrowth is a new spell. It seems like it's a 1-minute cooldown, applies rejuvenation to your friendly target, and that targets party members. So it seems that's an AoE heal with a rejuvenation on 1-minute cooldown. Yeah, possibly pretty cool, to be fair, especially that Druid didn't really have any AoE capabilities from before, except for like hotting everybody manually, so a very welcome change. Omen of Clarity has been changed into passive, so we no longer have to buff us up every now and again. Welcome change, of course. Revive is that resurrection spell that we have talked about previously, so now we can resurrect somebody out of combat. Tranquility has been made raid-wide, so with its smart healing, it should be a very powerful us-saving cooldown. And last but not least, we've got Tree of Life, which is an addition from TBC. We can become a tree and power up our healing tremendously with it. But unfortunately, our speed is reduced by 20%, so very static healer, let's say. The tree looks literally same as in TBC, except for the addition of the overgrown, for example, with the addition of overgrown, of course. Other than that, like I said, from TBC, we get Tree of Life, Empower Rejuvenation, so better HOTS, some spirit increase, so very nice for our sustainability, especially that. Tree of Life increases healing received by 25% of our total spirit, so amazing thing to have. As for leveling, you can of course try out balance with some more intellect stacking, but we would probably still have mana problems in it. Feral is the way to go, especially that we can do like a mixed build of tanking and DPSing. Very versatile class. Definitely recommended, especially after the changes. So in my opinion, Feral looks the most promising. I also like the small additions to the healers, although if we remember Paladin from the previous episodes, I think its version of AoE was much more powerful than the Overgrowth, but yeah, it is what it is. It seems that each healer is getting one of those. And as for balance, nice scaling changes, but yeah, numbers are still subject to change, so we'll have to wait and see. To wrap things up, to be fair, Druid received a massive amount of quality of life things and some passive additions that are just literally improving our experience. We don't really have any new toys on Epoch, so that's kind of a shame, but if you go for efficiency, Druid is definitely good. So is it any good though? Yes indeed. Feral especially, with both tanking and DPSing. As with additional extra point for leveling, you can also take Fur first to get extra rage or energy while shapeshifting, and then go down the line with the tree to simply increase your killing speed when after healing yourself you can get back into cat form with almost full energy. That's a very big buff to the leveling. So yeah, that's about it when it comes down to Druid. So when it comes down to the overall changes to the Rogue, we can firstly see axe proficiency, increasing the variety of weapon we can equip, meaning that weapon improvement during the leveling and overall variety for the endgame content weapon choice will be much bigger with that pull. Combo points have been improved so that this time around, if you deselect your target, combo points will not vanish. They will still stand until you hit another target with a combo point generating ability. Sometimes it was annoying when you, by accident, deselected your target or just switched through the targets themselves just to kick or something. So very nice quality of life change. Lockpicking seems to be quite important in the open world and dungeons. So having a rogue in your party will actually allow for some quick skips if your lockpicking skill is high enough. Also, since this is going to be like a Wrath of Lich King client, but everything about the classes is around TBC, the energy regen also has been reverted to TBC, so we get 20 energy per 2 seconds. Okay, so first we can take a look at the Assassination, which is literally my favorite rogue spec overall. It just fits the fantasy of, you know, using your bleeds and poisons like a true assassin. So of course with TBC we get a Deadly Throw, which is a combo point spender that can be used at range. We just simply throw a knife. And Venom is the new capstone. And Venom is a new spell that we get, which literally consumes deadly poison, and depending on the doses we use, it's going to increase the chance of poison application depending on the combo point and doses consumed. Exposed armor has been improved, so it no longer applies your version of the armor reduction, just refreshes like the very top one, so it should be easier to use. Mutilate is of course a capstone from the TBC in an assassination tree, but on Epoch it received a massive buff thanks to the positional requirement takeaway. It awards 2 combo point and costs 60 energy, so it's quite high, but the damage of this is also increased by 50% if we use it against poison targets, so ultimately it should be used on the deadly poisoned target in the DPS phase. If we take a look at the tree of the assassination, we can see some very cool things in here. First being poisoned knife, so standard throw and deadly throw now have a 100% chance to consume 10 minutes of your offhand weapon supply to apply it to the target. So we can either, for example, use deadly poison to throw knives and just simply apply it constantly for the damage every time, or we can just simply use crippling poison to be able to constantly kite our enemies. This potentially creates very cool playstyles for both like solo and in PvP, so that's very nice to have. Along this comes improved poison that also increases the duration of our poisons on the weapons by 10%, by 50 at maximum stacks. So if we decide to go for the poison knife, having longer poisons definitely help out a bit. Other than that, we also get improved vigor, which increases maximum energy by 20 now, and on top of that increases energy regeneration by 10%. From what I know, this has been implemented to kind of put on par with the talent from the combat potency, and just to help out generate more energy to dish out those mutilates. TBC gave us like cool stuff like Find Weakness, which literally increases our DPS, of course, Mutilate, Deaden Nerves, also on PvP stuff. So yeah, Assassination definitely looks amazing. With things like Cold Blood, we can definitely dish out Massive and Venoms, which should be cool to play really. As for the combat, we've got standard toolkit in here, with the TBC capstone of surprise attacks, where finishing moves can no longer be dodged and damage dealt by Sinister Strike, Backstab, Shiv and Gouge abilities increased by 10%. Not a very exciting capstone, I would say, but yeah, it is what it is. Additionally, we receive Shiv, which is more of an assassination buff, because Shiv instantly applies offhand weapon poison to the target, so I really think that occasionally we will use Shiv in our rotation as assassination. And on top of everything, we get redirect, which allows us to actually change combo points from target to target. It's on 1 minute cooldown, but still very usable as we haven't been able to do so previously. When it comes down to the talent trees, there is one very important change for lightning reflexes, as it now increases our total agility by 2%, which is 10% with maximum stacks. Is massive because literally every rogue will be able to max it out. So this means more survivability, more crit, more damage, cool stuff. On top of everything, we also get axe specialization, which gives us 1% chance to cause your target to bleed for 100% weapon damage over 15 seconds after hitting them with an axe. This is amazing because it's a passive damage with bleeding, but I also didn't mention in Assassination that Slice and Dice has been updated as well, because now bleed damage can increase duration of Slice and Dice by 1 second. So if we would be using Rupture and we would have this bleeding from the axe specialization, potentially we should never recast Slice and Dice in combat ever again. So this just opens up very cool playstyles for the combat rogues. Other than that, pretty standard stuff. We get Vitality, which is stamina and agility increase, and of course combat potency too, which I think was moved higher up. But a combat potency that gives us some energy back with our successful offhand melee weapon attacks. At the end of it all, we got surprise attacks, which I mentioned before. Not a very exciting capstone, but yeah, pure damage increase. As for subtlety, blind has been changed, so now it's a physical effect, not poison, so it can be removed with like abolish poison or anything like that. Cloak of Shadows, it works pretty much the same as in TBC, with the only exception that it's available on level 38 and we have to get it from the quest, so this could potentially lead to some exciting quest chains. Other than that, no new things in here. Even if we take a look at the talent tree, it's exactly the same as from the TBC. So we get a Shadow Step as a capstone, which is an amazing thing. But yeah, let's face it, Subtlety is like a pure PvP spec, so no usage in PvE whatsoever. Assassination really looks quite powerful, but to be fair, for PvP, I'm not quite sure if the damage is fair trade-off for all the utility we get from the Subtlety tree, so we're gonna have to wait and see. Definitely a sub change helps, where compared to Classic it doesn't throw us out of stealth anymore, so at least we don't have to spec in that. To wrap things up, Rogue look really promising, and if I would have to answer the question, is it any good though? Yeah, definitely. I mean, Assassination tree looks very, very promising with all the mutilate changes and envenom buffs. Also, I haven't mentioned this before, but poisons received some attack power scaling, so they should overall deal more damage, which is amazing because if I would have to pick a rogue spec, I would definitely go for Assassination. So that could potentially be very, very good. Subtlety, we all know from TBC, it's an amazing PvP spec. With a hemorrhage spam, you can even level with it quite effectively, so it's good. And yeah, combat is combat. Quick attacks, front-loaded at your enemies without any stealth or whatsoever, with Blade Fury up. And now with Axe in hand, that can bleed your enemies to death and help you out with upkeeping of the Slice and Dice. So PvP wise, not so many changes, but PvE definitely looks promising for rogues. For leveling, I would definitely recommend still pure combat, but if you get to that level where you can get mutilate, I think it's somewhere around 44 or 45 with additional points, then definitely recommend trying out and swapping out to Assassination to see how it works out. Of the overall Warlock changes with the curses and banes, as we know, it was a curse that actually had to differentiate between curses to be able to sacrifice Curse of Agony, for example, to keep Curse of Elements and stuff like that. So it's a very nice quality of life change to be able to use both damage and debuffs at the same target. Then we go into the Seed of Corruption and Rain of Fire. Many people actually did show their concerns about Seed of Corruption being everywhere in AoE fights with the Warlock, and actually Epoch does address this problem by tuning down Seed of Corruption by a little bit and moving some of its power into the Affliction tree, so it's only powerful while being specced into that. On the other hand, we also got buffed Rain of Fire due to the fact that now it's able to crit, so all the powerful crit talents from Destruction will benefit it. So we have 2 AoE choices for the Warlock specs at the moment, which is great. Firestones and Spellstones were kind of changed. Firestones can be still conjured and put onto your weapon to increase some fire damage, while Spellstone is used for dispelling, but unfortunately it shares its cooldown with a Hellstone, so you have to make a choice. Another quality of life is that soul shards are actually stacking up to 3, so more free space bags, which is very nice. And on top of that, we of course got Ritual of Souls to be able to give out cookies to the party. Right, so let's take a look at the Affliction spellbook. As you can see, we've got all of those Bane and Curses in here. Actually, we only have 3 curses: Recklessness, Element, and Weakness. And we've got Bane of Agony and Bane of Doom, and of course also Bane of Exhaustion. So if you are hoping that you can slow your enemies down in PvP and put Bane of Agony at the same time, that's not the case, but you can put Bane of Agony and Curse of the Elements, so it's definitely a buff in the PvE environment. Like we mentioned previously, we've got Seed of Corruption in here, a little bit nerfed, that's why it said it's updated, but overall, in the end of the day, it's still as powerful if you are on Affliction. This is not 100% confirmed, but still, it seems to say that Unstable Affliction has been updated. I just heard that Unstable Affliction has higher spell power coefficient than in standard TBC, so potentially we can get a little bit more damage from it. If we go into the Tree of Affliction, we don't really see that many changes. I was gonna come back a little bit to the Drained Soul because it's not said that it's updated, but it actually did receive Execute phase. As you can see, the damage of it can be increased by up to 40% based on the target missing health. So yeah, its damage, it's getting ramped up higher the lower the enemy has its health. So very good, because usually Drained Soul was kinda useless to use damage wise. And also Improved Drained Soul has its damage increase on it by 24%, which could potentially be very good leveling talent to see. Other than that, we don't see too many changes in tree itself. We've got standard stuff. Improved Shadow Bite is a new talent where our Fell Hunter regains 5% of its maximum mana each time it hits with its Shadow Bite ability. So who knows, maybe we could use Fell Hunter instead of Imp for some Dark Pact stuff and still be able to dish out some damage with it. Especially that, from what I've heard, the pets have been buffed up a little bit, not only by the raid-wide effect that can affect them now, but also just the core damage, even without any talents, seems to be a little bit higher than the usual TPC ones. So that's very nice to hear that potentially demonology warlocks can shine with a Felguard, for example, if it has its damage increased. Then if we go into Demonology, as you can see, we have mentioned this already, Spellstone and Firestones are changed. So as you can see, this a stone that can be applied to the weapon, which deals 80 additional fire damage with an attack, or increased damage done by fire spells by 21. So good for Destruction Warlocks, definitely. We of course get Fell Armor, which is a TBTC stuff. The new Demonic Sacrifice is still in here, as it was moved to Destruction, but we're going to get into that in a second. We've got something new, Soul Pact. Enter a pact with the raid or party members. If the target dies while under this pact, you gain 1 soul shard and your spell damage is increased by 36 for 10 seconds. So who knows, potentially you can just throw this onto a party member that is about to die to increase some of our damage and retain some soul shards. But yeah, it's going to be very occasional and situational as well. Instead of Demonic Sacrifice, we get Demonic Empowerment. So this mainly is for the Felguard, of course, which hurls their weapon at the target and enrages, stunning the target for 4 seconds, increasing the damage by 50% for 10 seconds. This is 1 minute cooldown, so very nice, powerful offensive buff for our pet. It has a very long tooltip, but it buffs our pets very nicely. Also, as usually, Warlock has Summon, Felsteed and Dreadsteed, so 3 mounts, which are always nice to have, especially with a fresh server. And within the tree, we don't really have that many changes, except for the fact that we get Demonic Empowerment, like I mentioned before, instead of the sacrifice that went into here as a capstone of the Destruction talent tree. We've got the Master Conjurer improved and adapted to the current spellstones, of course, and potentially we still have a possibility to play such a famous build as an SLSL Warlock, which would be going into the Affliction, taking Siphon Life, and then Souling, which would be possible on level 53, so still 7 levels of leveling, and potentially still best for PvP, which is also a reason why I'm considering Warlock very high as well, because this is such a self-sufficient class to level, to farm. It's also great for DPS. Even if you don't like Affliction, you can choose Destruction, which is more direct damage with some fire spells. We've got, of course, if we're going to go into the Destruction now, we of course get the Incinerate, we get a Blade Arena of Fire that can crit, we've got Shadow Fury that has been moved, we've got Soulfire with 1 minute cooldown. Yeah, Shadow Fury has been moved to this row, just because, yeah, Demonic Sacrifice is more of a like end game talent for PvE, while Shadow Fury could be useful in leveling and PvP while leveling as well. So that's why it's here. Plenty of talents for fire damage, as per usual for Warlocks. Improved Firebolt seems to have been changed, but I think that ultimately it's still better to sacrifice the demon instead of fighting with the pet, so with the Imp. As you can see, Demonic Sacrifice increases our fire damage by 15% constantly, so occasional 10%. I don't really see this as a winner in here, but we'll have to wait and see. Other than that, Standard Staff Conflagrate still consumes Immolate, so nothing has been changed in here. Shadow Burn, which is still pretty standard, so more direct approach to the Warlocks, and potentially without a pet, playstyle without a pet, so not so amazing for leveling, of course. Affliction will always be best, with more powerful pets, maybe even potentially Demonology, but that would have to be checked still. We're gonna see. For the moment, like I mentioned, Warlock, very big contender for me. Self-sufficient, very good DPS in the end game, in the future in PvE potentially. 3 mounts initially, very cool thematic, especially if somebody likes pets. So, and yeah, for war mode leveling, also amazing, as yeah, you would probably be leveling as an Affliction. So out with the Void Walker, you can just sacrifice it for powerful shield and just drain life your enemies to death, as per usual, I would say. So yeah, sheer power of the Warlock is very convincing, I would say. So guys, that would wrap it up. The Warlock, as I said, very powerful contestant. Will be fun to see more powerful pets during the leveling. So the very first thing changed in Priests we can see here is the addition of a cosmetic thing, a holy water, which you can recognize from the Stratholm, for example. This will allow us to actually change a simple drink that you use during your mana regen to change it into a holy water that can be used against the undead to deal massive damage. Very nice thematic addition that can be very useful in things like Stratholm or Scholomance. Second thing is that overall there have been changes made to the Holy Smite playstyle, which makes you like an offensive holy caster. We can get later down the line into the details, but the overall premise is that it's not viable endgame, more of a like leveling or fooling around spec, so just keep that in mind. Another thing is that there are 2 new races for priests available, which is a Tauren Gnome and a Gnome, which means that there are more racial knowledge possibilities for the priests. Every race has a separate combo of spells available for the priests, so with additional 2 races we will have a pretty big pool to choose from. As usual, we've got the right weight effects for our buffs, and that would be it for the general stuff. So let's take a look at the spellbook. When it comes down to discipline, Divine Spirit has been made baseline, but a slightly weaker version, with possibility to buff it up through the talent tree. Fear Ward has also been made baseline, and not a dwarven ability, so it's always nice to have in here. Mass Dispel is an addition from TBC, although it does say that it has been updated, but to be fair, I don't see any significant changes in here. Maybe there was like a change in mana cost or the target amount, so I'm not entirely sure about it. But yeah, Mass Dispel still possible to remove very potent magic effects like Divine Shield or Ice Block, for example, so very useful for our toolkit. There have been some switches in the talent tree. Pain Suppression has went down to the lower tier, and the capstone of the discipline is Power Word Barrier, which requires us to channel this spell constantly, but then we are able to absorb quite a lot of incoming damage, which is being increased by up to 250% when affecting a large group. So in raids, this is going to be more potent simply. Very cool touch and stuff, just to create like a thematic barrier thing for the priests. So very welcome change. As for the tree, not so many changes, but like I mentioned before, Pain Suppression has been moved to tier number 5, and Power Ward Barrier is the capstone. Otherwise, we've got some focused will from the TBC, Reflective Shield. I think it was also added in TBC, can't remember exactly now. But yeah, Enlightenment, more stats for the priest, of course. Otherwise, pretty standard stuff. And the very funny thing is that whatever kind of priest you kind of plan to play, there's one very nice build to start off with where you go into 5 Spirit Tap, and then you pick up 1 specialization for more wound damage, improved Power Shield for more survivability, Power Fortitude to buff our massive Fortitude buff, and pick up Meditation to allow 30% of mana regen to continue while casting. This, connected with Spirit Tap, will basically allow us to have almost infinite mana while leveling, so very good stuff. And if you want to play Shadow, you can just follow this route, pick up Shadow Ward Pain, Blackout, some Mind Flay, improve Psychic Scream, if you want to go for PvP, just to be able to pick up Silence, and just later down the line up to Vampiric Touch. Very cool build to level, and then on level 40, well, earlier, and on Epoch, you can just switch it up and go for Shadow 4 and then replace Wounding with Mind Flay, so there are some possibilities in there. Okay, then we go into Holy. We've got Binding Heal as a new TBC toy, which allows us to heal ourselves and one target ally. Bless Water, this is the thing that we mentioned before that is working against undead, which is great. Circle of Healing, which is a capstone, amazing AoE heal that is instant cast, so you don't need anything else added, because I've seen into the other healers that they were receiving some AoE stuff. Lightwell has been updated, so now it doesn't break off any damage, but only direct damage. So if you are fighting the bosses and you click the Lightwell, you get a massive healing and still have a dot on you. It's not going to break it. So amazing change, because sometimes, you know, you got it broken by some random damage. Holy Fire is updated because it received increased spell power coefficient, so it will be scaling a little bit better, which doesn't matter that much during leveling, because especially early on we don't get that much spell power stuff, but still it has been made more powerful, and the dot lasts actually 16 seconds. I'm pretty sure in Wrath it was like 8 or 10, but it's definitely longer, so more damage is always nice to see. And Smite also has been updated. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was just some mana reduction just to allow us to simply sustain ourselves a little bit more with the mana. Prayer of Mending, another amazing TBC spell. There's instant cast and jumps between our party members that are being hit. at that moment. So it's also a smart heal, so it will jump onto the lower health pool targets, which is simply great. Also, if I remember correctly, Holy Nova had to be talented previously in Classic. So now in TBC, this is a baseline spell, which is nice to have. Oh no, sorry, I looked wrong. It's actually a talent, so my bad, sorry. You can obtain it at level 20. As we can see here, Holy Nova requires 10 points in Holy Talents. So not many changes in here. We got Circle of Healing as a capstone, Holy Concentration, Blessed Resilience, but those are like, this is like a more PvP talent. And of course, more scaling for our heals. But most importantly, Searing Light has been moved, so now we get those damage modifiers higher. And quite important for the Smiting Priest is Surge of Light, because anytime we cast a spell and it gets critical, we get 50% chance to cause next smite to be instant. So very nice for healing, but we also need quite a lot of spell crit. Thankfully, Holy Specialization increases the crit chance effect of our holy spells, so this fixes our problems a little bit. But yeah, stacking intellect and getting as much crit as possible will definitely be a way to go. And as for Shadow, unfortunately, we don't get absolutely no new things in here. Of course, we got Shadow Fiend, but this is a TBC thing, so it will just attack our target and regenerate mana for us. But otherwise, nothing really new. Shadow Word Death, of course, is also added in TBC, which is an execute spell for us. So unless the scaling and spell coefficient for those abilities has been changed in Shadow, we're still should be just a support class for the moment. Mana Battery for Vampiric Touch, and it only, due to all the changes to the raid-wide buffs, Vampiric Touch still stands as a party member, so it only works in a 5-man dungeons and stuff like that. In raids, you would have to put a separate Shadow Priest, which will thankfully allow us to take a raiding spot in case we need it, because otherwise I don't really think that the damage will be anything amazing, especially at the start, unless the tier sets will change something. But for the moment, not many changes in here. Like I mentioned before, you can level 2 ways, probably in Holy as a pure caster, not so much wanding, just, you know, Holy Fire into smites. Some of those maybe even like free in instant, so it's a very nice playstyle, very active when those procs pop up. Otherwise, just pick up Spirit Tab, get those mandatory talents from Discipline up to the Meditation, so we get more mana regen, and then just follow the road down to Shadow and you're gonna be good to go. You'll get some nice survivability, more damage from wands, mana regen, anything you would want to have from one single discipline tree up to level 15. So, and then you just crank up the damage and some CC from Shadow and you're good to go. I think that spec actually would be really hard to deal with in PvP at lower levels. So yeah, priests are amazing in PvP overall, but with resilience added and stuff like that, we could have some problems on level 60, but we're yet to see. Overall, I love Shadow Priests, and it's kind of bummer for me that they didn't receive anything cool or even anything of significance. Like, those changes were so small that we don't even notice them. So that's kind of a shame for me, but still, we will see how the numbers are going to dish out within the first weeks. So that will be it, guys, when it comes down to Priest. Very first thing we can see here is that we will be able to conjure the Ritual of Refreshment, which means that we finally won't be forced to like distribute every mana boon separately to everybody. So as in the future expansions, we just conjure a table and everybody can just simply, so we simply don't bother about that. On top of that, it seems that mages can now conjure weapons, and the funny thing is that they can distribute it to the other players from the raid or party. These weapons do have some intellect on it, and if you haven't known, in vanilla, intellect actually affected your skill to be able to train weapon skills. So the more intellect you had, the easier it was to actually gain a skill up. Those weapons are literally just to train the weapon skills, so it's not so annoying as in standard vanilla or TBC. On top of that, they have some niche uses. For example, when during a raid or party or dungeon or something, somebody gets his weapon destroyed. So this is like a last resort. If you have a mage in your party, you can conjure a weapon for you, and you can use it until you will have a chance to teleport to repair or something like that. So very cool and very magey spell, let's say. So good to have something like that. It's like a very niche usage, but very thematic for a certain class, so I love it. Next one are teleportations. Standard stuff. We will be able to do a quest which will allow us to teleport to Stoneheart for the Horde and Thermore for Alliance. So yeah, less traveling for mages, although those will require you to complete the class quest to land those teleports and portals. So let's say that the obtain method will be a little bit more epic to the standard trainer stuff. And of course, things like Arcane Intellect will be raid-wide now, so same for every class, literally. So that will be it for general changes. Now let's have a look at the spellbook, and we start off with the Arcane. Arcane is a little bit crazy if you look at it, because look at this. First things first, Arcane Barrage, which is not a talent. It's a normal trainable spell at level 22. It's quite expensive, has 8-second cooldown, but it works the same as a Wrath of Lich King. So you launch a missile that causes quite a lot of arcane damage, and it has like additional synergy with the arcane spec, of course, because it consumes your arcane blast stacks that you of course stack with arcane blast itself, and when you actually consume them, your arcane missiles will deal more damage per each stack. So this will create a more engaging rotation for the arcane, as you will be able to cast arcane blasts, as many as possible, to stack those, then consume them with arcane barrage and follow it up with fully channeled arcane missiles. It's only 3 spells, but let's face it, the vanilla rotations weren't exactly engaging, I would say, so having something like that for arcane with all those custom spells and stuff is really cool. And on top of that, Arcane Barrage is a trainable spell, so it can be used by any spec, literally. Which means that, yeah, we will have additional instant cast spell to cast on any other spec, so very useful, I would say. Arcane Blast is exactly the same as in TBC, as each time we cast Arcane Blast, the casting time is reduced while mana cost is increased, and effect stacks up to 3 times. So it seems that Arcane Barrage can be, the damage can be increased to 45% and Arcane Missiles as well, so pretty cool stuff. Arcane Brilliance, of course, is a raid-wide effect, as we've spoken previously. Arcane Missiles have been updated. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't see any changes in here, unless it's some scaling or damage modifier. Otherwise, it looks pretty much the same. So it seems that the Conjure Mana Ruby is updated, and I think it is caused because it now has 3 charges. So it's not like you use one and you already get rid of it, but you can just conjure it and have it for longer periods of time, which can be pretty much useful in especially for Arcane, which is very mana expensive during like raiding, where you can use it on cooldown basically. So yeah, good to have. Conjure Weapon, as you can see. If we take a look, I thought there are like other weapons that we can conjure, but conjures a battle axe with 50 durability, which can be equipped by anyone that can use this weapon type. This is strange, because is it only the axe, or is it like goes on random or something like that? I'm not quite sure. This is rank 7, so maybe previous ranks give you different weapon or something. Maybe somebody can confirm it that played the beta, but yeah, I'm not quite sure about this one, but I think that previous ranks just simply gave you different weapon. Evocation has been changed, as in TBC it literally restored like 40% of your mana, or 60%, not quite sure now. But it has been reverted back to the vanilla state, where channeling the spell, your mana regeneration is active and increased by 1500%. So I'm not quite good at maths, but as long as I'm concerned, this should be a buff if you do have larger mana pool. But on the other hand, percentage-wise, if you had more mana, then so maybe this is a nerf. Not quite sure about that, to be honest. But yeah, it was reverted back to the vanilla state. In TBC, we also get Mage Armor, which basically allows us to have 30% of our mana regen to continue while casting, which is great for PvE. All the portals, updated portal to Stoneheart, of course, like we've spoken. Slowfall has been updated, not quite sure why. Maybe it doesn't require a reagent now, but I'm not quite sure. In TBC, as a capstone, as Arcane, we receive a slow, which is very nice, and it has a very nice, interesting workaround in here, because if it has like additional line, if the target is immune to movement speed reductions, this spell enters a 2-minute cooldown and still applies the other effects, so it's still usable on bosses, this means. I'm not quite sure what exactly is the aim of this spell, because yeah, either way you can either really slow a boss this way because it's so powerful, or you can simply just apply a slow effect for the damage increases, because we know, like for example, Frost or Arcane did had some talents that, for example, deal more damage when the target is slowed, so maybe this is like a synergy between those two things, but I'm not quite exactly sure. Ritual of Refreshment, so yeah, free mana buns for everybody as we spoke, and yeah, on top of everything we receive Rune of Power, which is also available for all specializations, as this is a trained level 50 spell. So it places a Rune of Power on the ground for 30 seconds, which increases spell power by 10%. So we will have to be very tactical about it, so we don't put it in some place where we have to run away from, as it has 5-minute cooldowns and lasts 30 seconds. So it's quite long, to be fair, but yeah, we'll have to be very careful where we place that, to be fair. And it seems that it lines up very nicely with Bloodlust, so ultimately in raids this will be amazing. In TBC we also get a spell steal, so we can steal a magical, beneficial magic effects from the target, which means that, for example, if a target casts haste on himself, then we can steal it and get a haste buff for ourselves. So it has very niche uses, but yeah, sometimes if you can steal a powerful buff from somebody, you can get very nice benefits for it. If we take a look at the tree, there were some swaps here and there. Mainly we get Arcane Blast on level 20, which is a talent in here. I don't see a talent like Improved Blink, but I do see its effects on the Prismatic Cloak, so I think those have been... An Arcane Impact definitely has been buffed because it increases crit strike chance of all of our arcane spells, so we just simply additionally get free 6% crit chance for any spell we cast, so that's quite powerful. On top of that, we receive Empowered Arcane Missiles, which will be amazing for our new rotation. Critical strike damage bonus of all spells, so pretty straightforward, deal more damage with crits, and yeah, increases spell damage by up to 5% of our total intellect, so I think that ultimately it can be the best scaling damaging spec, let's say, for mages. But usually other trees also have something similar, so we'll have to wait and see. And the capstone is a slow that we mentioned previously. So that will be it for Arcane. Definitely looks pretty damn cool with all those changes. And finally we'll have somewhat engaging rotation. Not quite sure yet what about Fire and Frost. But the Arcane definitely seems like a very fun to play when it comes down to mages. Next up we have Fire. Look at the amount of spells in comparison to Arcane. It's crazy, man. But yeah, of course, we receive Blast Wave, which is a talent. Combustion is our capstone from Vanilla. We get a new capstone in TBC, which is a Dragon's Breath, as more of our CC and PvP stuff, with occasional niche usages in like dungeons to CC stuff and break some casts, for example. Otherwise, we only get one new toy in here, which is Molten Armor, that eventually will increase the crit chance, and reduce the chance we will be critted by 5%, so it has a little bit of a small defensive, but yeah, mostly 3% more crit is always welcome to have, so good to have it. Otherwise, we will probably be spamming fireballs still. But yeah, let's have a look at the tree. We do see here all of the familiar stuff. Blast Wave, Critical Mass, Pyroclastic Burst. This is definitely something new. Your final spell criticals have 50% chance to increase the damage of your next Pyroblast by 10%, stacking up to 5 times. You cannot cast Presence of Mind while this effect is active. So it seems that our crits will stack a buff that increases the damage of our Pyroblast, but we cannot make it instant through the presence of mine. So okay, that's pretty damn nice, I would say, because it will somewhat make our rotation a little bit more engaging. At least will force us to click another spell except for like Fireball, which is nice to have. I guess that's more of a cheap version of Hot Streak, I would say, but still pretty cool. So we just get 5 stack of that, and then we shoot out Pyroblast, which is eventually still hard casted, but deals definitely more damage, especially if it crits. I can imagine that it can go really crazy. Pyroblast go brrr. And from TBC we have things like Blazing Speed, for example, which will be amazing for PvP, more mobility, Firepower, Standard Staff, Molten Fury, Critical Talent because it increases all damage we deal to targets with less than 20% health, so literally an execute phase. Combustion, 100% chance to crit. No, sorry. In TBC it's like 10% and stacks if you don't crit, so... And Dragon's Breath are like capstone, so not so many changes for fire. As we can see, we get only Molten Armor from the spells, and we get the Pyroclastic Burst when it comes down to PvE. All the other things are not really that crazy or fun, so to speak. So let's have a look at the Frost. First of all, we got all the standard stuff in here: Frostbolt, Icy Veins, Ice Lance, of course, but we get it quite late, level 56. I think in DBC it was 62. So still, it's more of our end game stuff rather than leveling. So it's kind of a shame. I was hoping that we can get it at least like around level 30. That would really make Frostmage really fun. 56 is quite late, to be fair. Summon Water Elemental, which is quite straightforward. We know it from DBC very well. This is probably a capstone of the Frost spell. Yes, Frost Tree. So let's have a look in here. The very first thing I notice, and will be quite important for endgame PvE, is that Frostbite gives you chill effects, 5% chance to freeze the target in place for 5 seconds, but if the target is immune to being frozen, it will be considered as frozen. This means that this will work on bosses, and it will pretty much give us 5-second window to benefit from Shatter on the bosses, which is massive, to be fair. Because if it procs, you can cast spam Ice Lances on the move, and yeah, we all know that the global cooldown is 1.5 seconds, and this lasts 5 seconds, so literally we can shoot out 3 Ice Lances that will benefit from Shatter, which is crazy good damage on the move. And otherwise we can just simply do Shatter combos with it. So yeah, Frost definitely engaging. Oh my god, Frost looks cool because of that. Especially that Frostbite will be useful in leveling because we can freeze people, and the freeze immune will still be able to get Shatter benefit, which is very nice. I like that change. So I think that comparing it to Fire, Frost will be way up there. Especially that it's more efficient and less mana expensive, so I think that initially Frost will be on top when it comes down to the all 3 specs, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Otherwise we have pre-standard stuff with Winter Chill adding some crit chance, Arctic Winds increase all frost damage, and Empowered Frostbolt adds some spell power scaling on it. Oh, with additional 1% chance to critically strike. It seems that we get shit ton of crit chance from all this. Look at this. Frost damage, this gives us 2%, 10%, this gives us 5%. Oh, we get some new thing in here. Increases damage done by your frost spells by 2%. This effect is tripled against enemies that are immune to fire damage. So it seems that, yeah, fire immune things, which means Onyxia Lair and things like Molten Core, which are the initial raids, are going to be heaven for Frost Mages. Because with 3 points, this is 6% increased frost damage, and while the effect is tripled, it's going to be 18%. So, oh yeah, those modifiers are really crazy, man. Frost looks really promising. On top of that, we also get Summer Water Elemental, so we have a very nice offensive cooldown on top of everything. Oh man, I have to say, is Mage any good though? Yeah, definitely, man. On Epoch, Arcane looks pretty damn fun and pretty damn powerful, which is great. Not quite sure about Fire, but also it's, let's say, standard TBC stuff with the addition of the Pyroclastic Burst, which initially may not be really that great, especially that will not have that much crit, so stacking this will be a pain in the ass. So yeah, fire I would probably say more for like further down the line into the further tiers of raiding. And yeah, frost looks really promising as well. That frostbite change with the ice shot, sorry, piercing ice for the initial raids, man, this is gonna be like best in slot, I'd say. Really cool stuff. So if you're all in love with mages and you were always a mage main, you will not regret it, it seems. I know that people tend to say that mages are the true Blizzard class and they always were so powerful. Well, it seems that Epoch is a true vanilla plus because they keep to that fact as well to make mages quite powerful. But yeah, definitely it looks really fun. I love the changes to Arcane, love the changes to Frost. Fire could use some love maybe later down the line, we're gonna see. But yeah, overall, great changes for mages, and it's gonna... The most important thing is that all those changes will make the playstyle more engaging, because we all know that, for example, for Frost, even in TBC, it still was just spamming Frost bolts because Ice Lances were unusable, for example. And this is gonna be different because we can just finish casting Frostbolt and shoot that Ice Lance at the end of it for massive shatter combos, which is gonna be great. Especially that Frostbite has 50% chance to freeze, so it's quite high to be fair. Especially that usually we also stack Haste on Frost to shoot out as many Frostbolts as possibly can, because we get also quite a lot of crit from the spec itself. So yeah, cool stuff, definitely. And in Arcane, if I remember correctly, in TBC of course we didn't have Arcane Barrage and Arcane Missiles were useless. So yeah, it was literally Arcane Blast spam, which wasn't the most fun thing in the world as well. So the funny thing is that in my videos in the comment section, I've seen that people say, oh no, this Epoch changes are shit, I'm gonna stick to Turtle WoW. And it seems that those changes actually from mages did beat Turtle, because I know that in Turtle with Arcane Mage you are just playing with Arcane Blast and Arcane Missiles. I think there is some kind of synergy between those two. You just mix and match those. And yeah, Frost Mages don't have Ice Lance there, so pretty damn cool. Although on Turtle the fire is more exciting, I would say, as they have like cheap version of Hot Streak there, so it can be fun. So if you want to play fire, go Turtle. If you want to play Arcane or Frost, Epoch all the way. Right guys, so mages, yeah, definitely recommend them. Hope this overview did help you out to make your choice, and I'll see you in the next one.